love coming together like this to really focus our energies on days that are giving us an opportunity to harness what the ancient people knew so well and worked with so consciously, on these cosmic alignments, on these solar returns. Of course, today being the solstice, and whether you are in the southern hemisphere and you are moving from the depths of winter into welcoming in more light, or whether you are in the depths of summer receiving the most light. For me, I was born on the summer solstice in the southern hemisphere, so I had this beautiful, my mum used to say to me all the time when I was a little girl, you are born on the day of most light. I think without her realizing it, she was anchoring something in me, hence anchoring the light, I guess, all those years later. So whether you're in north or south, it doesn't matter. The opportunity is still the same. And the message that I was getting big time is that we get to choose, we have to choose. It's decision time now. Like if we think of energy or consciousness, it is neutral. Energy is neutral. Our consciousness is neutral. It's like a blank screen or a blank canvas. And in the times that we're in right now, it's very easy to be distracted about what's happening out there, in our lives on the outside. But I feel what we're being called to do more and more, and the messages I keep getting myself, and whenever I either am in the portal through my meditation or I'm actually physically sitting in these great portals on the earth. I've just been 20 days in portals with our beautiful group that joined us here for the Colquenan in the Peruvian Andes, and then we went up to Bolivia for Mu to meet the Lemurian masters, and I can see some of you here, so it's so nice to see you again. It's a great way to integrate your journey by being here today. The message that keeps coming for me is that we have to kind of use our power of will. It's called ati in Quechua. It's the power of willpower to decide what we're going to focus our attention upon, what we're going to project onto that blank screen. What kind of energy are we cultivating? What kind of consciousness are we cultivating? It's really up to you. So, for example, the subconscious mind, which is very much about our ego and the things that we've been healing and working with, ancestral wounding, all of the stuff that's been coming up for us from our past. It's not ever that we ignore those things or we try to step around them at all. The most effective, the most transformative, lasting, strongest, most powerful way through these things, as we know, is to go through, to step into those shadows with the power of our light. It's like Luke Skywalker with the lightsaber. He doesn't say no to Darth Vader, but he knows that the Force is with him, right? So he fearlessly and courageously faces those things that we call the shadow. And those aspects of us come up to be seen and felt and loved and accepted fully and completely and felt. But if we continue to ruminate and dwell and pick and pull and go into these things for too long, or, I was talking to a Kero master yesterday. I had an amazing initiation yesterday. I was invited into the next level, I guess, of my spiritual path and journey, and offered a karpai, which is an initiation by a master from Keros. And so we went up into the mountains here. It has to be in a very, very clear body of water. And he was sharing so much with me around the concern that he has and that people up there have, because actually what's happening now is some people, especially the younger generation, interestingly, are losing sight of the purpose of everything that they've been through. That the time that the conquistadors arrived here, and because these people were living a heaven on earth, by the way. Before the time that the Spanish arrived, they were literally living in Paititi. They were living in an era, in a society where there was no jealousy, there was no judgment, there was no competition. They were all working together, and all of that changed on the arrival of, the people that came. But he was saying how important it is to not ruminate on that and to not demonize those people or demonize that time, because it was all a part of what was always prophesized of what needed to happen for us to be where we are now. And it was interesting, while he was talking, I was like, if that period of time hadn't happened, then it's possible that these amazing traditions, this wisdom, this knowledge that is spreading so far, and I know I'm a big part of that because it feels like it's in my blood and bones, weirdly, says the Australian girl with blonde hair and blue eyes. Don't ask me why, but it just is. From the minute I stepped on this land 13 years ago, it was instantaneous, the remembering for me. And all of everything that's been has led us to where we are now. Maybe those traditions, that wisdom wouldn't be reaching far and wide around the world had that not have happened. So at some point we have to, we don't have to, but we're being asked to make the decision of, are we going to continue to pull the past forward and project that on the screen and make that our reality, or do we tune in, tap in, and consistently train ourselves to be in alignment, to be tied, huatana, I'll tell you about that in a moment, to the highest aspects of us, to our higher self, to the higher energies, to the higher knowing, and project that on the screen. And we were talking a lot about too, and this again, really ties in with the solstice, because the invitation in these times to reach that illumination is that it's not out there. There's a difference between waking up and awakening. Waking up might mean that all of a sudden you become aware of everything that's going on, everything that's going on around you, everything that's going on within you. And there's a time that we move through where, when that stuff is waking up, we're still going out rather than going in. We're seeking on the outside for someone to tell us what to do, to give us permission to step into our greatness. We're looking on the outside, blaming it for the world is still stuck because this is happening. It's out there. If these people would just change, and if these people would just do that, or we go to the stars and we want to, almost leave this physical reality and give so much over to, all the different sort of prophetic things that are coming in that are telling us what to do and when, and we're totally missing the whole point that awakening happens within, that all of that stuff, all of the wisdom, all of the knowledge, all of the remembering, all of the validation, the only thing that matters is what is happening within you. The cosmos is not out there, it is within. And when you go into these ancient temples, you see this depicted consistently. I put a meditation out, a free meditation the other day, which you're welcome to receive if you want to. I'll ask Amanda when we send a newsletter out to pop the link to it there. And it's above, so as above, so below. It's accessing through the portal of your higher self. In these ancient temples, you see these monoliths that literally have two doorways, one above, one below. It looks like a H. And it's representing that aspect of you that exists in another dimension, that aspect of you that knows everything and that is guiding your way. So more and more, I feel that this is the invitation of the great masters. This is the invitation of the ancestors. And who were those ancestors? Here where I live in Urubamba, I'm just down the road from a place called Ollantaytambo. And down there is one of the most powerful solstice temples. There's one at the other end of the valley in a place called Pisac as well. And the temples are called Inti Huatana. Inti means sun, or really more specifically, it's primordial light. When we say children of the sun, we're really saying the children of the light. So Inti is the sun. Huatana are these things that we wear on our wrist or that we have tied around our medicine bundles. You can probably see the tie there. Huatana means to tie, to tether. It's a lineage. So in these temples, in the Intihuatana, they were built in these profound cosmic alignments that NASA still can't figure out to this day. You know, they're going into the temple at Ollanta every year and they're measuring, because, you know, the solar system moves, the sun moves by just tiny degrees, but over the course of thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And these temples aren't Inca, they're pre-Inca. The Inca came along after and added to what was already being built there. So for many, many thousands of years, these temples were built with these keyholes and portals that on the solstice sunrise, June 21st this year, it's June 20th. It's fallen a bit earlier this year, but say June 21st, December 22nd. The sunrise comes through those portals and it illuminates the entire temple. And in that moment, they were more than ever tethered or tied to the sun, to the light. What does that mean? You got to understand, and when you see these places, any ancient places on the earth, you can tell, you know that this is not from a limited human perspective. This is from a time and space where we were connected in ways that we find it very hard to even understand now, the technology that we had access to. You know, I once was taken through Lake Titicaca, this is many years ago, literally through the center of the lake, and I popped out in the jungle and I was standing at an ancient pyramid, a golden pyramid in the middle of the jungle. And I met a Paco, a medicine man on the way, and he gave me a coca kintu, and then he invited me to enter. And when I went in, I met these two great beings. And it was incredible. It was really a Shambhala, this heaven on earth. The kuyas, the rocks and the stones were pure crystal. And the people that were in the temple were communicating with each other and talking with each other, but not with words. They would just place a hand onto the heart of the other, and everything was communicated through the eyes, through the feeling, and through munay, through this love. And you could see them, they were like nodding and smiling, like they were having speaking conversations, but this was all telepathic. And you speak to the people here and they're like, oh yeah, that was the way it was. You know, this is very much, in this land here, when you say that you're from the stars, there is nothing new age or woo-woo about that. It's just like, yeah, we're from the stars. You know, that's just normal. They still have this memory, the people here generally. So much so that this 21st of June solstice marks a time called Inti Raimi, the return of the sun. This is the Andean New Year, actually, that we're in right now. So traditionally they celebrated their New Year now, not on January 1st like we do. So it's a time of great celebration, of great festivity, and this energy, wherever you are on the planet, you don't have to travel to these places because we are multi-dimensional beings. We hear that and we think, oh, you know, you can kind of wig yourself out a bit in trying to wrap your head around parallel timelines, you know, that we're existing all at once. You know, the past, present and future is existing all at once. But it's as simple as, can you take your awareness, your vision, your feeling back to the past? Can you? Yeah. Can you take it forward to the future? Can you visualize, see, feel, taste and touch what's coming? You can. And can you do all of that whilst being aware of being here and now in this moment and present in your body? You're multidimensional. You are able to time travel past and future. And what about, like, have a little ponder on this for a moment. It's happened for me multiple times where I've been into a sacred place and I've been told, guided clearly to go to a specific, random, very obscure place that you wouldn't come across if nobody told you it was there, and then told to do things like dig or lift that up or go around here. And I do that, I follow the instruction, and then pops out a crystal or some phenomenal stone that has so much power and energy that I know is meant for me to use in my work as a healing stone. And at first I kind of thought that I was receiving a stone that had been used once by masters, And then I realized that that master was me, that I put that stone there for me to receive when I would need it most. So, we can, if we want to, open our minds and open our heart into an awareness beyond what our physical eyes have been taught to see and beyond what our physical ears have been taught to hear. And this is the time and space that we're in. So as these solstices and portals and equinoxes and things come around, and there's these opportunities to receive this ancient future wisdom, these ancestors of Lemuria and these people back then, they knew what was coming. They knew because they were in touch with the future. And they knew that these things needed to be seeded there for us to receive now. And that's my intention for us today, is to visit this portal that lives within you, wherever it may take you in your shamanic journey, in your guided process, will be very unique to you because the wisdom is within you. This divine intelligence is universal. It doesn't belong to anyone. You don't need to have a qualification or to have done this or done that to tap into it. All you need to do is be willing to be open and to receive. That's all. And to trust your imagination, to trust your vision. We're so beaten out of trusting our imagination when we're kids, aren't we? And I know that those of you that have children now, encourage that in your children, because this is intuition. The imagination is intuition. It's telling us something. And we lose track and lose sight and lose touch with our intuition because we don't trust what we feel, what we see, what we hear. I remember as a kid telling adults things that I would see and hear, and them looking at me so weirdly. And then I would doubt myself. I remember it so clearly. I'd be like, am I lying? Did I really see that? Maybe I'm telling lies, So now if something comes, I trust it, I follow it, and then the magical ingredient is to say thank you. Because when you say thank you, more of it comes, more guidance comes for you. So we're going to begin our journey today with a beautiful ceremony working with Mama Cacao. And I love this beautiful medicine. She really is a perfect medicine for these times. Why? Because she brings in the sweetness that we need along with the directness. She really allows us to see what needs to be seen and to go in. But she kind of holds us in this grace, in this power of the divine feminine. And for me too, I work with, as a lot of you know, with the other sacred medicines, especially with Wachuma and with ayahuasca. And I feel that in these times, these medicines originally weren't used for healing, which is really interesting. Now we see them in healing spaces being used. And of course, it needs to happen now because we've had at least the last 5,000 years of heavy processes, right? So there's a lot to be cleaned up. But again, we're moving into an era now where we're completing a lot of those processes. And what if I was to say to you that your contracts are null and void, that you've done it, that your karma is complete, and that actually what you feel and what you go through is just like an imprint of a memory of that. I know if you are sitting in this circle, you have done a lot of work. You've been through it. Have you? Put your hand up if you've been at it for years. Everyone? And sometimes you get a bit tired, feeling tired sometimes, a little bit tired, a bit weary of the whole thing. And then at other times you feel completely activated and alive as, these energies reach you in whichever way they do. For me, it happens a lot in my dreaming, where they come in and they offer you great healing and recalibration. Then we've had all of the powerful solar flares, the solar activity and the cosmic activity, the photonic light that's been hitting us from the sun and from the planet. That's very real. That's not woo-woo. That you can go, there's an apu arriving. When a fly comes like that, that's an apu. That's a mountain spirit. You can go on to NASA and you can see what the frequency, the radiation from these flares is doing to the Schumann resonance, to the resonance of the earth. So when those rays and that photonic light is hitting us, our little vessels, it's like this is the old. Has anyone tried to put the new operating system on an old iPhone? I actually had to get a new iPhone because my iPhone was wigging out because it couldn't handle all of this whiz-bang awesomeness that was coming through from the new program, right? So what do you think happens to your body? It's exactly the same thing, you know, that hardware needs to be updated. It takes time to be able to fully integrate and to receive that super high frequency energy, right? So this is all of the stuff that we are moving through that's preparing us to take the step into the next level of this journey. Why? So that we can be lighthouses, luminous leaders for those around us, not to go out there and we don't have to shout from the rooftops and try and drag our families kicking and screaming along for the ride if they're not ready or whatever. You love them where they're at and you lead by example. Strengthen the power of your luminous being, your light. Strengthen the power of your love. Expand it. Have compassion for yourself and for your humanness when you slip up and go back into old ways. Who cares? Doesn't matter. The whole point is that you're aware now. You're awake. You're doing it. So more and more, whatever you can do, whether it's coming together like this, in your daily practice, in your contemplations, it's just a muscle. It's a muscle you got to retrain. The dormant DNA strands are being activated, but it's new territory. You're learning an old but new way of being. So like anything, we just got to keep repeating until it becomes natural. And it will become natural. And then there'll be a tipping point on the planet where the high frequency energy really outweighs the low frequency energy. And then that's when I believe there will be a massive shift, and we're seeing it now. Because as the energy raises, anything that's not of that high frequency is crumbling, is breaking down. And that, again, coming back to what I was saying about the inner job, and my encouragement to you as you move into this next powerful cycle, because we're starting a new 3-month and 6-month cycle today, fresh and clean. You get to choose. How am I going to show up for the next 3 months? Where is my awareness? You know, be aware, of course, of what goes on. Take action where you can, but don't feed that which you don't want to see. Keep your eye on the prize. I know I'm batting on about it, but there's 1,000 people possibly watching this. That's 1,000 people with a focused intention. You imagine the ripples that we can make. Don't feel for a second that by doing this work for yourself, you are not changing the world. You are. There is a web of energy, of golden light. In the Andes, it's known as the Teximuyu. It's called different things in different traditions, but you can imagine it just like a spider web. And there are filaments of light that go out from you through that web, and they touch every single thing in this universe. Just like the spider in the center of a spider web, when she makes a movement in that side of the web, if you're looking, even the edges of the web that touch the wall vibrate. That's what happens when you do this work, when you bring consciousness into your everyday, when you make the decision that you are what you're going to project onto that screen. Are you coming from hucha, the heavy energies, or are you tapping into your higher self and holding your focus and vision on the light? Then purely by doing that, you are affecting the vibration of the entire web. So by healing yourself, by awakening, you are healing the world, and you're helping the world to awaken without even having to do anything, just by your being.